Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be tackling Foucault's Pendulum by Umberto Eco.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's a really dense book, but I think it's worth taking a closer look at and really sort of dissecting some of the themes and ideas.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive in.
Me too.
Yeah.
So to set the stage a little bit, Foucault's Pendulum is this really multi-layered narrative.
Yeah, multi-layered's a good way to put it. It spans centuries, different locations, all these different characters, and ultimately everything kind of converges on this one night in 1984.
Right, and at the center of all of this is our main character, Jacopo Belbo, who's an editor. And along with two of his colleagues, they sort of invent this elaborate conspiracy theory. They call it the Plan,
Mm-hmm.
based on all sorts of occult theories. And, at first it's all just a game.
Mm-hmm.
But then they start to get pursued by people who actually believe it's real.
Things get a little out of hand.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
So let's start at the very beginning of the book. Eco drops us right into the Conservatoire des Arts et Métiers in Paris.
Yeah, with that giant Foucault's pendulum swinging overhead.
Right, and there's this couple just sort of chatting away, completely oblivious to the significance of this pendulum.
Right, just totally ignoring this massive symbol of, the Earth's rotation, this constant in a world of chaos.
I mean, it's kind of ironic, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think Eco is playing with that contrast right from the start. The stability of the pendulum versus the way we as humans tend to, create our own interpretations of the world.
Right, and the way he describes the pendulum, it's not just this, scientific instrument.
Yeah, he calls it iron that breathes.
Right, it becomes almost like a character in the story.
Exactly. It has this presence, this weight.
Yeah, and speaking of interpreting the world, one of the key concepts in the novel is this idea of the Tamura from the Kabbalah,
Right. The idea of rearranging letters to find hidden meanings.
like a secret code almost.
Kind of, yeah.
Mm.
The Kabbalists believe that by changing the order of letters in a text, you could uncover hidden truths or even create the opposite meaning.
That's so interesting. And in the novel, it's the character of Levi who's really obsessed with this idea.
Oh, yeah. He's constantly playing these permutation games.
So how does this Tamura thing tie into the bigger themes of the novel?
Well, I think it speaks to this human desire to find patterns to impose meaning on the world, even if it means, twisting things to fit our preconceived notions.
So it's not just a harmless word game, it's a reflection of how we create our own realities.
Exactly. And that's exactly what the editors do in the novel, right?
Yeah.
They create their own plan by playing with these historical and occult connections
Right. And this plan leads them to a mysterious tower.
with 36 openings.
Ah, yes, the number 36, which keeps popping up in all sorts of occult texts.
Right. It's often associated with these hidden forces, these invisibles, as they're sometimes called.
So this tower becomes kind of a symbol of the mysteries they're trying to unlock.
Exactly. The secrets they believe are hidden beneath the surface of reality.
And it's not just Belbo and his colleagues who are drawn to this idea of hidden knowledge. His lover, Lorenza Pellegrini, is also fascinated by the esoteric.
Especially through her connection to Sophia,
Is it Fia?
this Gnostic figure representing divine wisdom.
Right, and there's that inscription on the photo that she gives Belbo.
Yeah, because I am the first and the last. I am the honored and the hated. I am the prostitute and the Saint Sophia.
It's a very powerful statement, very evocative.
It suggests that she sees herself reflected in this archetypal figure,
Yeah.
someone who embodies both the light and the shadow.
It's interesting, though, because unlike Lorenza, Belbo starts out as a skeptic.
Oh, absolutely. He's initially very resistant to all this mystical stuff.
And he chooses to study the Knights Templar because he wants to debunk the myths surrounding them.
He wants to separate fact from fiction.
But at the same time, he's also an unfulfilled writer stuck editing other people's books.
So maybe this search for the Templar secrets is a way for him to find his own voice.
Right. It's like he's searching for something more, something beyond the mundane world of editing.
It's a yearning for creative expression.
And speaking of finding a voice, let's talk about the setting of the publishing house where Belbo works. They've got some pretty wild departments like urban gypsy planning and tetrapoloctomy.
Oh, yeah. Eco loves to poke fun at the world of academia.
Right. It's like
Yeah.
he's satirizing the tendency to overcomplicate things.
But it also serves as a nice counterpoint to the increasingly serious conspiracy theory that starts to consume Belbo and his colleagues.
Like a reminder not to take ourselves too seriously.
Exactly. Even as we explore these complex and sometimes, kind of out there ideas.
But things definitely take a darker turn with the introduction of Colonel Ardenti.
Oh, yeah. He's our classic conspiracy theorist.
He's convinced that the Knights Templar have this secret plan for world domination.
And he sees connections everywhere.
And what's interesting is that Belbo Levi and Casaubon, our narrator, They initially dismiss Ardenti's theories as pure fantasy,
Right.
yet they get drawn into this web of conspiracy.
It's like they can't resist the allure of the mystery.
And they start trying to decipher this cryptic message supposedly left by the Templars.
A message that involves all these different locations and this 120-year cycle,
It's like a treasure hunt.
but a treasure hunt with some very high stakes.
And that's where we'll leave things for now.
Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve deeper into their search for the plan.
And the dangerous consequences that follow.
It's gonna get intense.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Umberto Eco's Foucault's Pendulum. When we left off, Belbo, Daitalevi, and Casaubon were hot on the trail of this supposed Templar conspiracy. They're convinced they're seeing connections everywhere. But are they really onto something, or are they letting our imaginations run wild?
It's a slippery slope, isn't it? They're like detectives trying to piece together a puzzle, but what if they're forcing the pieces to fit?
That's what I'm wondering. Like, they're so eager to find this pattern that they might be ignoring evidence that doesn't support their theory.
Exactly. It's like classic confirmation bias. They're looking for anything that confirms their belief in the plan and disregarding anything that contradicts it.
And their research takes them down some pretty interesting paths.
To say the least, we're talking Kabbalah, Rosicrucianism, Freemasonry, the Illuminati, even Nazi ideology.
This is a lot to keep track of.
It really is. But Eco isn't just throwing in these references randomly. He's showing how these groups and ideas, real or imagined, have fueled conspiracy theories throughout history.
It's like he's tracing the evolution of these narratives, how they take root and spread and ultimately influence how people see the world.
And what's fascinating is that amidst all of this research, the editors actually stumble upon something, a supposed secret, at the heart of the Templars' plan.
What is it?
It's called the umbilicus tellurus.
The what now?
The umbilicus tellurus, essentially, it's a mystical center of the earth.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
The editors believed that the Templars discovered this point where they could control something called telluric currents. These are like natural energies that flow through the earth.
And they thought they could control these currents.
Yes. They believed that by harnessing this power, they could influence the weather, cause earthquakes, even control the very fabric of reality.
Wow. That's some next level stuff. So they think the Templars found a way to basically control the earth itself.
That's the idea.
Hmm.
And it's this concept that starts to consume Belbo. He becomes increasingly paranoid, believing that he holds the key to unlocking this power and that he's being pursued by all these secret societies who want to steal it from him.
But we know the plan is a fabrication, right? Something they created themselves.
Right. And this is where the lines between reality and fiction start to blur, not just for the characters, but for us as readers as well.
It's like we're being drawn into their delusion.
Exactly. Eco masterfully creates this sense of unease, this uncertainty about what's real and what's imagined.
And Belbo's paranoia just keeps escalating.
It culminates in that fateful night at the Conservatoire des Arts et Métiers, where he's confronted by this gathering of occult figures.
Can you set the scene for us? Who are these people?
Well, there's Bramante, who claims to be a Rosicrucian. There's Aglier, this enigmatic figure who seems to be pulling the strings from behind the scenes. And of course, there's Ardenti, who's still obsessed with uncovering the Templar secrets.
So it's like a who's who of conspiracy theorists.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And they all believe that Belbo possesses the key to the umbilicus tellurus, the map that will unlock the power of the plan.
But the map doesn't exist, right? It's just another part of their invention.
Right. But they refuse to believe Belbo when he tries to tell them that. They're so blinded by their own beliefs that they can't see the truth.
It's like they're trapped in their own echo chamber.
Exactly. And as the tension rises, some of them resort to more extreme measures. They try to summon spirits to force Belbo to reveal the secrets of the map.
Wait, spirits? Like ghosts?
Yeah. They believe that by contacting these spirits, they can access hidden knowledge that will help them unlock the plan.
That's pretty wild. And does it work? Do they actually summon anything?
Well, the scene descends into this chaotic spectacle, with mediums going into trances and strange utterances and visions. It's hard to say what's real and what's not, but it definitely adds to the overall sense of unease and paranoia.
So it's like a psychological thriller meets the supernatural.
Exactly. And in the midst of all this chaos, Belbo remains defiant. He refuses to give in to their demands, even though he knows it could cost him his life.
He's become a martyr to his own creation.
In a way, yes. And his defiance ultimately leads to his downfall.
What happens?
Well, as the tension reaches its peak, the pendulum itself becomes an instrument of fate.
The pendulum? How?
It gets caught up in the struggle between Belbo and the occultists, And as it swings back and forth, its cable wraps around Belbo's neck.
Oh my God. He's hanged by the pendulum.
Yes, a chilling and symbolic end orchestrated not by any supernatural force, but by the very human forces of belief, obsession, and the desire for power.
Last time we saw Casaubon, he was running for his life out of the conservatoire, with Belbo's death echoing in his ears. It's like he's back in the real world, but can he ever truly shake off what happened?
Yeah, Eco doesn't let him off easy. He has Casaubon wandering through Paris like he's lost, almost like a ghost himself.
So he's still trapped in that web of the plan even after Belbo's death.
Exactly. He revisits places from the plan Saint-Martin de Champs Notre Dame, like he's searching for something solid to hold on to after all that blurring of truth and lies.
It's like he's drawn back to it even as he's trying to escape.
It makes you think, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe there's a part of him that still wants to believe, even though he knows it's all a fabrication.
That it's all a game gone wrong.
Right. And as he walks, he keeps remembering things, bits of conversations, passages from those old texts.
Like echoes of the plan.
Yeah. And he can't shake this feeling that he's being watched. Like those forces from the plan are still out there somewhere.
But those forces are just in his head, right?
Well, that's the question Eco leaves us with. What is real? What's imagined? If reality is just a story we tell ourselves, who's writing the story?
So Casaubon is left to grapple with this idea that maybe there's no such thing as objective truth.
In a way, it's a very postmodern idea.
Does he ever find any peace? Any answers?
He ends up fleeing Paris, going to the countryside to his uncle's house, which is where they actually worked on the plan originally.
Full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're surrounded by all the remnants of the plan, the notes, the maps, the books. He starts to really confront what happened.
He has to face the consequences of their game.
And he realizes that he was just as seduced by the plan as Belbo was. He wanted to believe in this hidden order in the chaos of the world.
So it's a cautionary tale about the dangers of getting lost in our own narratives.
I think so. It's about recognizing that we all have this desire to find meaning, even if it means embracing something that might not be true.
Or creating something that ultimately destroys us.
Exactly. Like Belbo imagined himself as this famous poet who disappears.
Unrecognized by a former love.
Yeah, a bittersweet image. It speaks to the fleeting nature of fame and recognition, even of our own identities.
So in a way, it's a story about letting go.
I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Accepting the ambiguity and the uncertainty and finding meaning in the everyday moments, rather than searching for some grand, overarching narrative.
It's about embracing the small stories rather than getting lost in the big ones.
Exactly. And recognizing that even fictional narratives can hold profound truths.
Foucault's Pendulum is definitely a book that makes you think. It challenges your assumptions about reality and truth and the power of stories.
It's a reminder to always question the narrative, even your own.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Foucault's Pendulum. We hope you enjoyed it and maybe even learned a thing or two about conspiracy theories, the nature of reality, and the importance of critical thinking.
And who knows, maybe it'll even inspire you to go read the book for yourself.
Until next time, keep diving.